This is a strange prison. The inmates here spend every day with feces and water. Unfortunately for Kyle, he's just been put in here. The stench of burning fecal water keeps the man awake at night. Every day, his food was crawling with ants. Finally, the man couldn't take it anymore. He made a rope out of his prison uniform and tried to kill himself, but the quality of his confinement was poor. He survived, but in a place like this, it's worse than death. He looked at the opposite wall and slammed into it. In a haze, he saw a moth fly in front of him. It hovered for a moment, and then it stopped at the bowl of food. The man just picked up the bowl. The moth landed on the spoon. As if to guide the man to eat and live, he picked up the spoon and ate the unpalatable food. Finally, he survived. The next day, while working, the bully's men came looking for trouble. They beat the man severely. The guards just watched and didn't stop them. After that, the man was put back in that horrible dark room. It happened to be a rainy day. The rainwater mixed with the fecal water. It made the already terrible conditions even worse. That's when Kyle finally realized, in a place like this, the only way not to be bullied, the only way to stop being bullied in a place like this is to become stronger. So he started working out like crazy. He climbed the walls and did pull-ups every day. When others were resting, he lifted iron. When he was working, he carried the heaviest logs. When it rained, he ran. After months of training, the man had his first fight. His opponent was the king of prison fights. Almost no one thought much of Kyle. As soon as he stepped into the ring, he was being beaten by the bully. Kyle kicks the bully to the ground, and the two of them got into a fist fight. By the time the guards pulled them apart, the bully's throat had been bitten by the man. He died on the spot. The man's reputation spread throughout the prison. There was a king of fighting who was feared by all. His style of fighting was to take no chances. When an opponent tried to run away, he'd pull them back until they were dead. Soon he had more and more dead bodies, and he became the new king of the prison. He cut his hair. He wore his hair in a back comb. Even his fellow inmates, who he was afraid of before, he dared to challenge them. He has indeed changed from being afraid of violence. He's ended up becoming violence itself. But his cellmate Billy was different, facing the violence in prison. All he wanted to do was escape. He escaped many times. He was caught many times, but he never gave up. On this day, he was about to escape again, but the guards caught him in the act. This time the guards handed him over to a strong man. Day 2, the man saw Billy being tortured with his last breath. Billy told him before he died, don't let them change him completely. That's when Kyle finally came to his senses. He began to reject violence. This caused the warden to lose face in front of his guests. He ordered his men to hand the man from a metal frame outside. Time went by. Every day he was exposed to the sun and the rain. He was tortured to the point of death, but he never gave in. His resistance to violence infected the other prisoners. The gang leaders offered to settle. No one wanted to fight in the next match. The warden's way of making money was shattered. That day, Kyle was sent for treatment. When he recovered, he was taken to the center of the prison. The warden was making an example of him. He unleashed a fearsome prisoner. He was big. He was very violent. He broke out of his collar and headed for the men. At this very moment of crisis, the man rapped on the iron door. When the giant heard it, he miraculously let go of his hand. It turns out that before the man was locked up in the dark room, he would always hear people tapping on the wall next door. From time to time, he would tap the door to reply. Over time, they became good friends. But then the giant recognized him. The guards were furious at the sight. The guards were furious. They grabbed their guns and threatened to keep fighting. The giant took all the bullets to protect his friend. He went up and knocked the guards to the ground. By now, the prisoners were furious. They rushed out and beat up the guards. Soon the prison was in chaos. In the end, the guards tried to put down the riot. Then 451 found Kyle. He pulled out a notebook he'd been keeping for 20 years. It was full of evidence of the warden's crimes over the years. He wanted Kyle to take it out and report it. And how to get out? He's already got a plan.
I won't fight anymore.
I plan calls for one last fight.
Soon it was the next day, against the same strongman who killed Billy. At this point, Kyle wasn't holding back anymore, and as soon as the fight was over, he was escorted to the execution chamber. Just arrived at the garage, 451 suddenly came out. Soon the two of them took control of the two guards. Then 451 took out his uniform and told him to change, take the warden's car and go out. After all the arrangements, but he didn't leave because he had more important things to do. Kyle drove out of the prison with the evidence. On the other side, 451 arrived at the warden's office. By the time the guards got there, the warden was in a pool of blood. This is the end of the movie. We'll see you next time.